Hey, what up, guys? This is Anti-Hippie Hater 10264 here to explain to you, the viewer, what biodiversity is, why we need it, why it's in trouble, and how you, the viewer, can save it. Before we can go out and save the world from total destruction, #Elysium, we need to understand what biodiversity is, and it's important to us, the human race. For starters, biodiversity is a number of different species in an ecosystem. Wait, hold up. What the heck is an ecosystem? Well, an ecosystem is a community of different organisms interacting amongst each other and their surroundings, like a rock. Biodiversity helps protect an ecosystem by keeping the ecosystem stable and less susceptible to change, which is really bad for the ecosystem. The more native species in an ecosystem, the more biodiversity there is in that ecosystem, and the more food choices for the predators, which helps sustain populations. Well, why should we care about the environment, biodiversity, or the health of an ecosystem? Why should I care about biodiversity? Why should I care about some frog in South America going extinct? Because it doesn't affect me, right? Why should some guy all the way in England care about some duck in New York? The question can be answered many different ways. One of those answers is the ripple effect, which is when one organism or one ecosystem goes down, everything is affected around it. An example of this could be the effect of an invasive species on an ecosystem. Our ecosystem has grass as the producers, grasshoppers as the primary consumers, robins as the secondary consumers, and foxes as the third level consumers. Now, let's introduce an invasive species, the cricket. The cricket outcompetes the grasshopper, kills off the grasshopper, and, well, the grasshopper goes extinct. Since the robins can't eat the cricket, it also dies because of lack of food. Because the grasshopper is dead, the robin's only source of food. And thus, the foxes also go dead because it has no source of food. Then, the barren lands before you see right now is the result of overpopulation. The cricket had no natural predators, so it ate the grass until the grass was gone, and thus killed the grass too, causing massive erosion. Now, let's say that a berry plant the cricket can't eat appears, or it naturally appears and doesn't affect the ecosystem in a bad way, in fact, in a good way. The robin can eat this berry plant, even though the berry plant or the grass is gone because the cricket eventually eats it all. The berries still allow the ecosystem to move on so biodiversity can save a species. We need biodiversity because it protects our environment. The environment is very important to us because without it, many different foods, building materials, and other resources would not be available. Some examples would be without trees, we would not have lumber, rubber, apples, or bananas. Without the wheat plant, we would not have grain, the main source of our carbs. Why do we need to protect this? And why do we need to protect biodiversity? That is the reason why. So what can we do to protect all of this stuff that we need? So how? My good friend Elena Nabs is going to explain that right now.
I'm sure at a nearby forest preserve, there's a volunteer program involving some sort of brush clearing. Brush clearing is where a group of people go into the forest to extract invasive species, thus help support native species. It's actually pretty fun. I fell out of a tree once, but sorry, that's besides the point. Invasive species are foreign organisms that were introduced to a habitat not their own. These organisms are often detrimental to native species. Native species are important because they can provide everything from food and shelter to clothes and medicine. Take a moment to imagine life without those things. Pretty sad, right? Some introduced species can be beneficial to the environment, but more often than not, they just destroy habitats. This causes a decrease in biodiversity, which you know is greatly beneficial when we have it. Some ways you can help this issue are by volunteering at your local forest preserve to stop the spread of invasive species in your area. And you can plant many different compatible native species in your garden. See, not that intimidating.